On this podcast, our teen hosts discuss real life with real people.
We hope to inspire others by sharing stories of individuals and pairs of friends who have dealt with mental health challenges or just the ups and downs of life and discussing what brought them healing and inner peace.
In these episodes, we also talk about the role that friendship and connection plays in a person's emotional well-being.
Subscribe to this podcast to be a part of our Friends on Air family.
Friends on Air!
Welcome to Friends on Air, a podcast presented by the Friendship Circle of Pittsburgh. On this podcast, we have teens host and discuss real life with real people. Each month, we invite individuals to share their stories of struggle and healing and the role that friendship and connection plays into our lives. Our hope is that during this segment, you feel heard and seen and inspired in some kind of way.
Welcome to I think this is the 9th episode of Season 2 of Friends on Air.
Hi everyone, my name is Goldie and Ashira. I finished high school, so I don't have a grade, and I'll be your host for today.
I'm Ashira, and I'm going to 11th grade, and I'll also be your host.
Hi everyone, I'm Ayla Rosenthal. I'm the Teen Member Engagement and Partnerships Coordinator at Friendship Circle, and I basically just get to listen into this wonderful conversation and maybe pipe in if it's necessary. But I'm so excited because we're in a brand new space today, which we're going to talk all about. As you can see, if you're watching the video, we have a little bit of a new background. And I'm excited to hear everything that our guest and our hosts have to say today.
All right, so Ayla basically just summed it up, but in this episode, we're going to be talking about...
I didn't mean to give it away.
It's okay. We're going to be talking about, it's called The Beacon, which is a brand new teen wellness space. And yeah, before we get into it, we're going to have our interviewee, is that a word?
Yeah, interviewee.
Sweet. Introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kaitlin Hens-Greco. I am really excited to be here talking with you guys. I am a mom, soon-to-be mom of 2, from Pittsburgh. Grew up here, and I'm a social worker, a licensed social worker, a therapist, and the clinical director of The Beacon.
So in one sentence, what are you here to talk about?
I'm here to introduce The Beacon, talk about what we hope to do in this space, and to talk about our mission, our programming, and why this really unique and innovative space was developed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we always do a speed question, so let me pick one out. If your life was made into a movie, who would play you and why? What's this up?
Oh my gosh.
You could start us off, Kate.
I can start us. Oh gosh.
I need a little minute to think about that.
I need a minute. Does anyone else know off the top of their head? Goldie.
Yeah, sure. So this is just because I like her and I think she's cool. I don't know if she'll play me well, but Emma Watson.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I like her because of Harry Potter, and yeah.
Good answer. I think we might have answered this question in a previous one.
Oh, you did?
No, which is perfect. I'm like, I don't even remember, but I vaguely remember Allie, which I feel like we should give her a shout out because we miss Allie. She was at the beginning. Allie will be back for the next episode. She had a baby. I feel like we should let our listeners know because we talked all about her pregnancy throughout her whole pregnancy, and she has a beautiful baby who, when she comes on next, she'll talk a little bit about. But when we answered this question last time, I think Allie said that Anne Hathaway would play me, and I thought, okay, that's cool. I like that. So I guess that would be my answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been told that Jennifer Lawrence.
Ooh. Oh,
I kind of
was like it's in a lookalike. Is that what
I guess I see that.
Yeah.
No, now that you said that.
Of?
No, now that you said that.
As you said her name, and like your face like flashed.
Yeah, same. I guess if you were blonde, like it would be a little easier.
Is she blonde?
Yeah, she's blonde.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
I mean, right now.
No, but you do kind of like speak.
With like a similar, I think a similar like face.
Yeah, you do.
Or something.
Wait, that's actually weird. Now that you said
that.
Yeah,
I couldn't pull her name immediately, but
you speak the same now that you mention it. I'm gonna
a little bit. That's true.
That's like when I watch your interviews now, I'm just like
think of Kaitlin.
What's your answer, Ashira?
I still don't know. I'm just going to say Tom Holland because I love him.
Love that.
All right, so let's just get into it. What is your connection and role at the Beacon?
Yeah, so my title is the clinical director of the Beacon, and I was brought in to help open the doors. So when I joined, so many decisions and work had been in progress already, and I was brought to sort of help develop policy and protocols and hire staff and get sort of the things that we need in place to make the Beacon a functioning space for teens.
Could you talk a little bit about also how you've been involved at Friendship Circle
Yeah, sure.
and coming back? What's that like?
Yeah, it's been awesome. My story with Friendship Circle starts in 2010. And I joined Friendship Circle. Actually, it's kind of a sweet story. My parents live in Squirrel Hill. I was walking the dog and I saw, at the time, Friendship Circle was on Northumberland. And I saw this really sweet little office and I peeked in the window and I was like, what is going on here? There wasn't anyone in the office at the time. It was completely empty. But it just looked really colorful and inviting and warm. And so I went home and I Googled it and was really struck by the mission. And so I sent a random email and was just like, hey, I'd love to see if I can get involved. I got a response a few hours later and was invited to this cookout at some backyard in Squirrel Hill. I can't remember where. And I showed up, didn't know I had no idea what I was walking into. And I was just so struck by the whole experience. I was struck by the beauty of what was being created, right? In some ways it was so simple. It was just pizzas and music and games and people of all different abilities sitting around tables, enjoying a meal together. And I was just so struck by how simple and how profound the moment was. And was like, I really want to get involved. And fast forward, I started volunteering and then started working at the Friendship Circle and worked for
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I worked there for about 3 years, three-ish years, maybe a little more. And then decided to go get my master's in social work at Pitt. And so, left for a while, worked in the schools for a long bit and have circled back.
So cool.
Yeah. So my story has been, my relationship with Friendship Circle has been there for a while. So it feels really special to be back in this capacity, a different place in life.
And it's super cool seeing the adult members who knew you from then come and they're every time they see you, they're just so excited. That's been that reconnecting with so many people who were really significant in my life at that point has been really fun. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go through all the W's.
Okay, let's do it.
Starting with what. So in a couple sentences, what is the Beacon? What inspired it, motivated it?
Okay, so the mission at the Beacon is to be a vibrant community space that focuses on uplifting and supporting the well-being and mental health of teens, adolescents. And so I like to think of it in sort of 3 parts. Or 2 parts, really. There's the physical space, and then there's the programming that happens in the space. And so we are in the Beacon, and so teens will be able to access and use, members of the Beacon will be able to access and use this space. And then we will also be hosting inclusive programming in the space, in the Beacon, that focuses on how do we improve self-awareness, self-esteem? How do we introduce mindfulness, emotional literacy, emotional resilience? So all of our programming will center around those sorts of themes.
So what inspired and motivated the Friendship Circle to start on this project?
That's a really great question. So the Beacon is an initiative of the Friendship Circle of Pittsburgh. And I think the story of the Beacon starts quite a few years ago. Friendship Circle has always been an organization that has said, show up as you are and we will support you, we will celebrate you. And what I I'm told, right, Friendship Circle's staff started to realize, right, is that more and more members were showing up with mental health and emotional needs to programs, right? And they felt and feel safe at programming and safe with Friendship Circle staff. And they were hungry for opportunities to start engaging with, just like understanding their mental health, expressing themselves, expressing sort of what's happening in their inner worlds. And Friendship Circle couldn't like not pay attention to that need, right? And so they started to develop wellness programming. That's where you come in, right?
Mm-hmm. And
them, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so wellness programming, and you guys can pipe in and talk. I mean, you guys were a part of this, so like my understanding is that the wellness programming, centered around how do we support our teens in developing positive coping strategies? How do we support our teens in expressing themselves, building strong social connections? Does that feel accurate? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the opportunity became available to buy the building next door. And so through a series of events, Friendship Circle decided to use this space as a wellness space that's like where the programming will now run out of. Yeah. The wellness programming will now run out of.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you. That was a very good summary.
Yeah.
That was that?
Yeah,
okay.
That was great.
Okay, so who is the Beacon for?
So the Beacon is for high school teens in Pittsburgh. And I think the other sort of component to that is like high school teens in Pittsburgh who are curious about their mental health, who are curious about how do I deepen my understanding of myself? How do I strengthen my own coping strategies? And how do I live a life with positive mental health? And when I say positive, I don't mean let's be happy all the time. Like that's unrealistic. We all know that. How I view positive mental health is being able to understand and manage the wide range of complex emotions that we experience as humans. And so the goal is not because we can't be happy all the time, right? Like it's just not possible. But how do we understand what's happening inside of ourselves, and how do we manage it when it's difficult? So teens so it's open to teens, but teens who are also super curious, I think.
Okay, well, we're in the building right now, so I do know where the Beacon is, but for people who don't, where is it located?
It is at 1926 Murray Avenue. There's both an entrance off of Murray, and then the main entrance is actually in the back parking lot, the Bartlett parking lot.
Okay, and so when will the Beacon be open for teens, and what will it look like on a daily basis when it opens?
Yeah, it's a great question. So over the next 2 months, we will be hosting programming out of the Beacon. So technically we are opening our doors, but we will be opening for a full sort of calendar year at the start of this coming school year. So end of August, beginning of September. Mm-hmm. And what will it look like? So we're going to have the Beacon will be open to high schoolers in Pittsburgh. You have to be a member of the Beacon to use the space and participate in programming. And if you're interested, on Friendship Circle's website, fcpgh.org, there's a Beacon tab. And on that tab, there's a contact me form that interested people can fill out.
We can also link it.
We can link it. Great. Awesome.
Find it on our Instagram, message us.
Awesome. So there's going to be unstructured time where the space will be open to teens to come and use. And then there will be structured programming. And our hope is to, throughout the next year, begin with 1 programming a week, increase to 2, and then possibly 3 programs a week. And yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
I'm going to flip this question to you guys. So Ashira and Goldie are both members of our Teen Wellness Committee, which I think all of our listeners know that our hosts are from our committee, our teen committee. What kind of programs do you, like, I know that we've talked a lot about this, like what are we going to make happen in here? Do you guys have any, like, the inside scoop for, like, what we've been talking about, like what kind of programs will be here, or even if we haven't talked about it yet, something that you hope will be here, or something that you're looking forward to seeing here?
I mean, I know a lot of the ideas that we had revolve around food.
Yes.
Because
always got to include the food.
That's what brings people. That's 50% what brings people. Yeah. Do you have an answer?
Should I spoil things?
Yeah, you could totally spoil things.
So we're gonna have like basically all the events that until now we had to find different places for, like open mic nights and stuff that we did in the Friendship Circle building, like wellness days and stuff like that. So this is gonna be a space dedicated for that.
Exactly.
Open mic nights.
Yeah. I love, Ashira, that your sole answer was food. And then you're like, Goldie, what do you have?
That's all I'm not singing right now because my stomach is also.
As an example, last night we had a self-care night where we talked about like self-massage and aromatherapy, and we have a little kitchenette. I'm also going to link some, like, we got some TV coverage on the Beacon, and so I'll link those videos so everybody can get a little tour. Maybe we could even put some at the end of this video, but we have a little kitchenette, so we'll do some like healthy food making, and like we talk a lot about like the mind and body connection. So food is actually a major part of that. We'll talk a lot about like really anything wellness related will be in this space. And something that you said before, Kaitlin, that I just wanted to add to is like there are teen spaces all over Pittsburgh, and I think what makes Friendship Circle unique, and I'd love to hear afterwards what you think makes this space unique from other spaces. But what I found is that teens who come here have the intention to check in with themselves. There will be a little socializing, there will be snacks, there will be fun programs and fun giveaways and all of that. But the goal is that people are coming here with like purpose, like they're coming with the intention to take care of themselves, to connect with themselves. We have a sensory room. We have like a comfy setting where you can just read or write or journal or draw, or like you could socialize with others and connect, or you could just be by yourself. And I think that's what makes this space super cool is here you're going to like be super supported in a like really welcoming and homey environment, while also achieving like self-care and achieving positive mental health experiences. Yeah. What would you say to that?
I think it's spot on. I think a couple of thoughts that came to mind as you were talking is one is and I should have started with this and I didn't, but the Beacon has been inspired by you guys, right? Like all of the programming, all of the choices of this space, from like these decals on the wall to like like everything has been chosen by our teen wellness committee. And I think that's a super unique aspect of the Beacon, right? Like the programming and the space has been teen led and teen inspired, and will continue to be driven by what our teens and our teen wellness committee or future teen board members will want to use this space for. I think that's super unique. Yeah. The other thing that I just want to say is that like I think one of the research shows, right, that one of the number one protective factor for people who are struggling with their mental health is, do you have social connections? Do you have a support system and people who you feel safe to talk to and connect with and share what's happening inside, right? And so I think that's part of the reason why Friendship Circle, right? Like to answer the question, why Friendship Circle, right? Because the whole goal is to build social connections and social networks. And so, like you were saying, what were you saying, Isla? Like talking about the
like how it's very intentional, and people coming here are coming for like a purpose and to connect with themselves. Sometimes that's through connecting with others.
Exactly. Or not also, right?
Right. Yeah.
The other sort of unique thing that I just want to say about the Beacon, and I think what's so interesting about it is like it actually falls in the middle of Murray Avenue between the JCC and a place like Upstreet, right? Like, you guys familiar with Upstreet? So
to our listeners, Upstreet is a drop-in mental health center that is basically a clinical, more of a clinical setting where you can come and talk to a therapist for like an actual session.
Right. And then the JCC is a community center, right?
Yeah.
Where
people hang out.
People hang out. And the Beacon actually literally falls in the middle of the two.
That's funny.
And both like figuratively and literally, it also falls in the middle, right? In the sense that it is a community space where people can come use the space and connect with others, but with intention. And I think that's the other unique component of the friendship or of the Beacon.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned previously that you have a professional background in like the mental health field. So what inspired you to get into that?
I mean, to be honest, it happened really organically. When I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to study. Really, I just knew I liked people. I was like, I like people. I'm curious about people, and I'm curious why people do what they do. And so I studied psychology, and that sort of curiosity has driven a lot of my professional choices, right? Like why, just wanting to engage with people. And honestly, all of my work has centered around adolescents and high school aged people. So when I left college, worked at Western Psych for a while, Friendship Circle, got my master's, and was a social worker with Pittsburgh Public Schools in a high school for 7 years. And now I'm a private practice therapist as well as working at the Beacon. And it's really been driven by a real fascination and love of other humans, right? And connecting and understanding people and relationships, and why we do what we do, why we are.
So to follow up with that, why particularly the Beacon? Why is that meaningful to you specifically?
Yeah, I think the Beacon really stood out to me because, my work with Pittsburgh Public, it was transformative professionally, was super intense. I, was working with my students. A lot of them were in crisis all the time, and really, really painful crises, really intense traumas. And I was really quite, to be honest, discouraged with how our system supports our school system, but how generally our systems really fail some of our most vulnerable members of our community. And when I stepped back because it, honestly had gotten to be too much. I was a new mom. I was, learning to balance home life and work life. And I was really, really burnt out and drained. And so I stepped back, which was a really complex and hard decision for me. And then when I reconnected with Rifki and heard about what you guys were doing with the Beacon, it was just so, I was struck by the proactive factor of it, right? And the positive lens, right? How do we build these skills and support our young people prior to crisis, prior to it becoming a serious issue. And where and one of the things I've been thinking about is where do you learn these skills in life, right? If you just do eventually.
Right.
And I think it's really cool to create a space that starts to teach these skills.
Kind of off what you were saying, someone once said to me, they were like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? And so my mother, who was in the room, goes, why do we wait for anything to be a 10 before we get it? Why do you have to wait for it to be the worst it could be?
Totally. And what's interesting is we do that for almost all the other aspects of our life, right? Physically, people work out before they get, whatever, have health problems.
Right. You take care of your health before you get sick.
Yeah. Exactly. Why don't we give that same attention and focus to our mental health and our emotional health? It's people oftentimes in therapy, they're reaching out when they're in crisis, right? When something really dramatic or really upsetting has happened. I actually really enjoy my clients who reach out and they're just life is complex and I need support and helping to navigate it, right? Prior to it becoming too much and overwhelming. So I think it's a really it's just a really healthy approach to life and living.
Such a good way to put it. Like, it's really, like, I don't know what the proper word would be. I'm thinking like monumental, but it's like a pretty big deal to have a space where you can come and like be supported by mental health professionals, connect with staff that you connect with friends that you connect with, while still being encouraged to like be yourself, be in a like super accepting and warm environment, and like on top of that have random yoga classes thrown in there for free. For free. Say all of this is for free is crazy. I mean,
it's like really cool. It's
really cool.
And I think I want to say all of our staff will have a mental health background, which I think is a really important component too, right? Like, I think if we are talking about supporting people's mental health, we have to back that up with our staff, right? And we have to have staff who understands and knows how to have those conversations when they show up, which they will, right? And so we've been really intentional about hiring people who have a background in mental health.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Okay, so kind of on a more personal note, in your own life, were there any times that mental health impacted you, and also what helped you get through those times?
I mean, I think it's fair to say mental health impacts your life all the time, right? Like, I mean, I think there have been moments where it has definitely been harder or more significant, right? But it's always playing a role. I mean, it's always playing a role. It's always impacting. I mean, it's impacting my day to day, honestly, right? Like the other day, I woke up and I was like in a bad mood, and my husband was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I'm just in a bad mood, right? Like I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm feeling super anxious." So I think it's a daily experience, honestly. What brings me healing? Man. Oh God, I think the most, I think the biggest one is, and sometimes it's the hardest one to sort of connect into, is getting out of my own head and seeing people who I love, who I feel safe with, who get me talking, and so I guess seeing my friends and loved ones and family, right? Like that's what heals me almost every time. Even when I'm like, I don't want to do this, like I don't feel like interacting, it almost always helps me to have a conversation with someone that I love.
Yeah, I can relate. That's really important.
Yeah.
So kind of to follow up that, do you have a favorite like song, album, quote, artwork, whatever that has helped you?
And I saw this one and I was like, oh gosh, there's so many.
You can list a bunch.
Yeah.
And okay. I keep saying we have to make a playlist, a podcast playlist.
Yeah. I mean, like podcasts, like I've listened to too many, but have you guys, do you guys know about, I don't know if you would, Esther Perel? Have you heard about her? She's a therapist and she does this podcast. And I think this is like, I don't know if I actually want this to be the one that you talk about, but I'm going to share it anyway. She does these live sessions, like live couples sessions, records them, and then sort of it's like a live therapy session, essentially, on a podcast. But I think why I love it so much is that it normalizes the human experience in such a beautiful way, right? Like so often, especially in relationships, we think like, oh, that really, they have it figured out, right? Like that person gets it. They're so smart. They're so successful. And I think what's so incredible about this particular podcast is it's just so real and raw and honest, and these people are they're talking about really complex and personal issues that are happening in their relationship, and she's having a therapy session with them. And I think why I love it so much is that you can so often see yourself or see your personal experience or someone you know's experience in their story. And I think that normalization of the human experience always makes me sort of feel like
unfiltered.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, other people experience these thoughts and feelings too, like just not alone. And I think that's really, I love that podcast in particular. The other thing that stands out to me, I was thinking about artwork, and in college, I had this experience. I won't take you through the details, but I had this conversation with, I think she was like I don't remember, she was a rabbi or a minister. She was like, had some religious background, spiritual training background. And I was really struggling with something. I was really struggling with something that had happened and feeling really conflicted. And she had these 3 panels in her office. And she was talking me through them. And they were these like 3 panels of art. One was like really neatly drawn, like it was all geometric shapes and everything was like in its line, perfect, right? And the second one was sort of bleeding into each other a little bit. And the third one was just like completely splatter painted and like messy and complex. And she was like, Kaitlin, like, listen, life is not like this first panel. Like life is over here in the messy, confusing, sort of chaotic panel, but that's where beauty happens. Like beauty happens in those like complex, messy moments. So it's good that you're over here because like good stuff happens over here. And I've circled that thought so many times, right? Like perfection is in some ways boring, right? But also like not possible, right? Like the good stuff happens in the mess over here. Anyway, I've thought about that conversation with her many times throughout my life.
That's
when things get
cool.
messy.
That's like, I don't think we've ever had somebody answer with artwork. And that was like a super like deep.
I mean, I honestly I was sitting in her office and I remember, I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Like think about that conversation all the time.
Yeah. So cool.
Okay, so if anyone knows the singer Rachel Platten, she has a very popular song called Fight Song.
Oh,
and it's helped me through some tough stuff. And also another singer, I'm really into music. So Nightbird, she was on America's Got Talent, so that's what I know her from, and she has a song called It's Okay. So it's like, it just calms me down. Like when stuff are like chaotic, I'm just like, okay, it's okay. So yeah, that's my answer.
That's great.
Rachel Platten, I've had so many, like when I've been in tough mental health places, or if I've been with close friends who have been in different like intense mental health situations, it's always, I don't know, there's something about like, there's a couple songs. There's that Fight Song and then also
Stand By
You. Yeah. I think those two really like, we'll just drive around and blast those and like cry because they're super like strong.
And they're also upbeat, so like
it's like a mix. It's like
you will
it's like
cry,
super inspiring and also like happy. You don't know what to feel.
I don't know if I have like a specific song, but I do like I don't know. I do have the like what does help me though is like I like to write songs, I guess. It's also just fun. But yeah.
Do you want to sing us one?
Oh, for sure.
We can link
my morning voice.
It's really a hard thing to do, write songs.
For me, it's not. I don't know.
Man, that's amazing to me.
Like it, like obviously, like
does it just
it can get repetitive, but yeah. And also, you know what's really cool about it though, because I hate journaling. I'm sorry, I can't. I've never written I've never had a diary. Okay. I just like I don't know.
What is the difference feel like? What's the difference between writing a song and journaling?
No, so because you subconsciously you don't realize until after what you were writing. Like I look back at something I wrote like 3 months ago, and I'm like, because like you're like you had no idea that like it was a subconscious thing that you'll only become conscious of like
later on.
Yeah, and then you look back and you're like,
amazing.
Yeah, I probably needed like a cookie then. Like,
I was going through that.
Yeah, and it's like it's very cool.
I can attest to that. Side note, Ashira's my sister. At open mic night, the first open mic night that we had, Ashira sang a song. First of all, I bawled because we had nobody in my family had ever heard you sing. It was really cool.
What's the song about?
It was about, what was it about? No.
Sorry, it's fine. Don't have to answer.
It was about
We'll talk about it later.
It was about like heart, like
It was just about
it was about feeling alone.
yeah.
Which, by the way, is I was just telling my friend, like, loneliness is something that, like, we're so self-conscious of, but literally every single person feels lonely. Like, everyone. I know people who were, I mean, I think this is the classic, like, the most popular people, like, are the most alone. But I have seen that, like, really true. People who you think have all of the support, have all of the friends, have you know, like, they feel secure in their relationships, like a lot of the time feel really lonely.
Lonely for the most part is negative, but I also think that you have to, like, be lonely to grow, because then, like, if you're not, like, it doesn't make sense that you wouldn't be ever.
Yes, exactly. It's a very human experience. But anyways, the reason I'm saying that is because that was, like, I think writing songs for you, like, translates something that you don't usually like verbalize to the public. Or that's even why you don't tag us. Yeah, Ashira has banned us from her singing Instagram.
I know. I have an Instagram. My mother asked if she could follow it, and I said no.
Yeah, you know what? I get that. I guess there's, like, sometimes it's easier to be vulnerable with, like,
singers who, like, start out, like, they don't let any of their friends listen, or, like, their friends is different. They don't let any of their, like, relatives, whatever, because then I have to, like, I walk into, like, my grandfather's house, and my uncle's there, and he's like, "Yo, I heard your thing," and I was like, you weren't supposed to, because it's been shared over the whole entire family chat.
I mean, what do you expect, Ashira? We're shoving us.
Well, that's why I just don't do it.
But I guess I don't really, like, nothing super specific is coming to mind, but any like good folk music is just super, like, I don't know if I would say healing, but, like, really gets me into, like, a better place. I guess that's healing. Especially if it's, like, on a road trip where I have to just sit with my own thoughts, car rides. Having, like, a really solid playlist is helpful, which plug our teen wellness playlist on Spotify and Apple Music. Find it in our wherever it is. Our thing below. It is there.
Subscribe, like. So you did actually kind of previously say that this is, like, what helps you, but how do connections and friendships play a role into?
How does friendship and connection play a role for me personally, or yeah okay. I mean, relationships are everything to me. I mean, that's like if I would say, like, what is a core pillar of who I am, it's for my relationships to others. Simply put, like, they're everything.
It's true.
Family, friends, cousins, my son and soon to be other son, like, husband, partner, like, they're everything. They're absolutely everything. They're what makes life meaningful to me. So, and I think, it's one of the reasons why Friendship Circle's mission and what I hope we do at the Beacon is just, like, fits in so beautifully with like my core values, right? Like, friendship, relationships is, like, I don't know what the air of life. What is, like, a phrase like that? Like, it just is, and to help strengthen that for others is it's just a real privilege.
Thank you so much for being willing to tell us about all of this. And
it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's been a little chaotic, but it's an early morning for me, at least. Okay, so in today's episode, we basically talked about the new wellness space, the Beacon,
some of our programs
that we're gonna have,
Kaitlin's incredible experience,
and why. Yeah.
And why. We hope that you'll continue to grow with us as we share inspirational friendship and mental health stories and resources in our future episodes. If you'd like to hear more stories and episodes like this, subscribe to the podcast. Wishing you well, and thanks for being a part of our friendship family.
Signing off from Friends on Air.
Thank you, Kaitlin.
This was so fun.